How's everybody doing tonight? Hopefully everybody's having a good hump day and ready to get the weekend over with. What's going on? Let's see. We'll get it started. Let's see. Let me go see what's going on with my LinkedIn. No, I'm always struggle streaming over there. I got like 900 tabs open. So it is what it is. Close some of these. Hopefully I can love that memory back, but we'll see. We'll see. Once again, you know how we do it. If you got any questions, just drop them in the box, tech or cybersecurity or GRC. Just let us know. Let's see. How can I'm always struggling. I think we're good. Yeah, post activity. Let's make sure I'm flowing over there. There I am. Make that a little bigger. Okay, so I'm on LinkedIn. Welcome over there. Once again, I always struggle streaming. You see a Ticketmaster. They saying that's gonna be probably one of the biggest breaches lately. So we'll see. Hopefully everybody check it on a replay. I know the basketball game's on, but we're gonna get it rolling. So let's get going. Let's see what's on to. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Give me one in the chat if you can hear me. Let's see. I'm gonna get it going. So you see it, Ticketmaster data breach 500. I think it was 543 million to be exact, but hey, that's a lot of people. So, and like we talked about a little bit yesterday, we know Ticketmaster going to end up in a couple class action lawsuits. I'm sure the state's probably going to jump in there and sue them too. So let's get started. Let's see what we got going on. I don't know why I'm enamored by this slide. 500 million times $100 credit monitoring is $50 billion. So, but shout out to my man. He said you probably would get a discount on 500 million. So even if you charge $10, 10% of that, right? Just take a zero off. That's still $5 billion, right? And you see, you still ain't fixed anything. You ain't hired any consultants. You haven't got the big four out there. You haven't got Mandian out there to start fixing. What's up, Justin? Glad you can join us. So I don't know if it's the 50 billion I'm enamored with. That's just such a big number, right? So a lot of times that's why cyber guys get paid decent. And that's why cyber companies make a lot of money, right? So Ticketmaster, you lose 500 million customers times $100 credit monitoring is 50 billion, right? We're gonna give you a discount at $10, 5 billion, right? So you saw it on there. It's the post-mortem. So if you had SnowFlake or you had a SnowFlake-like database, usually we kind of walk through what happened to Ticketmaster to see if we can prevent that from happening to the company you work for. Then two is if you are a GRC or security practitioner, it builds up your skill set and you learn, different techniques and kind of figure out what went wrong and what happened. Shout out to my man Jupiter 1,000 times Ice. I can imagine the legal team and stakeholders how they're not even sleeping at night, but even one put cyber on your back end, you get what you pay for. Yeah, facts. And we're gonna get into it. They didn't do a lot of, I'm gonna say a lot. They didn't do some really basic things. So I think they're going to get sued for negligence. I think you're going to see quite a few class action lawsuits, especially from the states, right? And I think the government, PCI, credit cards, going to jump in on that too. But no, you're right. I've been in a couple incidents where you're kind of trying to figure out what's happening. You waiting for your consultants to tell you if you actually got hacked. You trying to dig to your logs. And a lot of times companies not mature enough to even do that, Jupiter. So now you could be. That's one reason I don't know if I would want to be a CISO. The pay is nice, but man, especially with how many techs are out there now, that's a rough job, and they don't really last that long. All right, so long story short, let's get into it. Ticketmaster database, and we're gonna drill in there. It was SnowFlake was their database. So third-party cloud database security lacking. That's for a third-party cloud database involved. Member of the threat intelligence community from Dark Ratings. If you go out to check out their website, one of the popular cybersecurity websites, identified it to be SnowFlake, which issued its own statement acknowledging that there has been a cyber activity directed towards some of its customers, which included Ticketmaster. But the posting on its community forum did not name names as to which customers are affected, and the company did not immediately respond to requests for comment. So this is interesting what SnowFlake said. SnowFlake said, did note that the attack succeeded due to poor customers' configuration. This is a targeted campaign directed at users with single-factor authentication, right? That's like, ooh, right? Like you in grade school. They put the little branch on his shoulder. He knocked the stick off his shoulder. Only directed for people with single-factor authentication. As part of this campaign, threat actors have leveraged credentials previously purchased or obtained through InfoStealer, right? I got a flow chart showing that. But the big deal there, I put it in red. SnowFlake, their customers didn't do their configuration correct and was not using MFA. So SnowFlake, like, hey, it ain't us, man. And AWS has those conversations a lot. We give you the tools. You got to configure it to the level of classification for your data, right? Shout out to, let's see what my man said. I did my interview and the main basic is patch updates, password separation duties. If you can do that, you can defend facts. A lot of people are not doing that. Like you said, MFA with the live facts, man. We're not doing basic things. So I think that's part of the struggle there. Is a must, right? Right. MFA is a must. But once again, I think Snowflake snitching on it. It was only directed at people with single factor authentication. We know MFA is really a base level security that you should be doing, especially if you got 500 million users, right? And customers' data, right? So real quick, we're just gonna look at a couple minutes of SnowFlake, just their marketing data of what that is. So I wasn't really familiar with SnowFlake, but I guess it's pretty popular out there. Once I started digging into it, I was like, oh wow, a lot of big companies are using SnowFlake. So let's check a little bit of that out.
Data plays a critical role in helping your business deliver on its most strategic objectives. But data silos have made accessing this data and unlocking its value challenging for most organizations.
So that's the big deal is now, right? That's one of the buzzwords. Shout out to my friend right there. She coming. Check out MFA's them up, but SnowFlake is going to still take. They're going to take a little blame, but they pushing it off, right? It's hard to force MFA because there's so many different MFA vendors. So you can configure it with a ton of different vendors and a ton of different. And I got a slide coming up on that, Jupiter. But once again, shout out to SnowFlake, busting down those silos so we can get the data.
Data remains locked in these silos, meaning organizations are spending countless hours and resources trying to stitch these silos together and move data between them, instead of using data to drive new insights and better decisions. Until now. Introducing the SnowFlake Data Cloud, a global network connecting you with the most relevant content when you need it. The Data Cloud is a powerful solution that eliminates.
Everything's in the cloud. Everybody's got a data cloud. Everybody's got a mesh. Everybody's breaking silos. So where's the cloud? Is it in AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle? Are they spinning up their own data cloud? What compliances are in the cloud? So we're going to touch on a little bit of that when we roll our sleeves up and dig into SnowFlake.
Many of the challenges and limitations of past approaches to break down silos across your business. To uniquely deliver on this, SnowFlake has innovated across 7 key pillars. SnowFlake seamlessly brings together all your data regardless of type, scale, or origin. And you can bring all types of workloads to this data, powered by a single elastic performance engine to deliver fast performance at scale. All this is delivered as a simple, self-managed platform that just works and connects your teams and data globally across regions and clouds through one seamless experience. All fully governed at the core, so your data is protected at global scale. With the addition of Snowpark, you get the flexibility.
Well, okay, they said it's protected, but who's protecting it? Once again, if you're in the cloud, that's a shared responsibility, right? So they just say they're protecting their part, but if you don't configure it correctly, right, obviously you're gonna end up like Ticketmaster. And I found like 6 or 7 other companies that kind of had issues with Snowflake and some of their data. It's out there on the web too, so it just was not Ticketmaster. So
to work with popular languages and libraries like Python and Java in addition to SQL. To unlock even more possibilities, the Snowflake Marketplace simplifies sharing, collaborating, and even monetizing the data, services, and apps most critical to your business. These innovations all come together to create the Snowflake Data Cloud, the active and growing network that is delivering new value every day. Join the thousands of customers, providers, and partners that are breaking down silos and connecting their business and ecosystem in the Snowflake Data Cloud. Contact Snowflake today to learn how together we can mobilize your data.
well, that's a catchy line, man. We're gonna mobilize your data. We might be mobilizing it to the hackers, but we're gonna mobilize it. No, that wasn't nice. PBO apologize. I shouldn't have said that. Shout out to Snowflake. It wasn't their fault. I think it was. Shout out to Ticketmaster. They were negligent. Let's keep rolling, right? So at the top, you see the big dog Mandiant. They're probably number one when you get hacked. All the big dogs called Mandiant. So let's see what they had to say. And the report from Mandiant said it was 165 organizations have been affected by the large-scale campaign. The users stolen customer credentials to target Snowflake cloud storage. According to Mandiant, the financial motivated threat actor tracked as, of course, they always give them numbers. UNC, I want to call them UNC. UNC 5537 has compromised hundreds of Snowflake instances where customers' credentials stolen via InfoStealer malware that infected non-Snowflake owned systems. Mandiant investigation has not found any evidence that suggested that unauthorized access to Snowflake customers' accounts stems from a breach in Snowflake's enterprise environment. Once again, the breach did not come from Snowflake's enterprise environment. And Mandiant's the 800-pound gorilla in there, right? So the Google-owned company said instead every incident Mandiant respond associated with campaigns from trace back to compromised customers' credentials. When I dig into them, one of the other things that came up, no, you're cool, Chris. No worries. I'll drop the link if y'all want to come up. MFA's the way, straight up space taco. But long story short is some of these credentials have been out there for 2 years, so people wasn't resetting their passwords. People wasn't expiring their passwords. So shout out to my man Jupiter. Is that a Ticketmaster problem or a Snowflake problem, right? They're not expiring those credentials, right? So I think that's one big deal that came out of that, right? So the info stealers, and I got the flow for that, the chain for that flow coming up. But long story short, those credentials were stolen. And two, the thing is, and people need to do a better job is, obviously they're using the same username and password for the same account, same architecture, same things, right? So even if you go to a different site or a different Azure, you need to change something in there. Even if you put AZ on the end or MS on the end or some kind of template, so you're not using the same username and password, especially for something as critical as Snowflake, right? You got companies' data in there. You got like I said, data, PII, you could have HIPAA, you could have government data in there. So obviously you shouldn't be using the same password. So that's definitely a no-no. And it looked like a lot of those password was coming from consultants, right? So I thought that was a little disheartening. Consultants aren't even doing the right thing. So here's come some of the other things that was in that Mandiant document I seen. Ticketmaster Centaur Bank, Anheuser-Busch. Oh my God, Allstate, Advanced Auto Parts, Mitsubishi, Neiman Marcus, Progressive Insurance, State Farm, previously named the potential victims that came out in the SnowFlake campaign. Right. So people were using obviously their personal and their business work and not changing the password. And the companies wasn't expiring those passwords. So right, once again, that's negligent. Right. So if y'all guys want to come up, no big deal, or y'all can chill. I dropped the link down there. Right here. Once again, drop any other questions or whatever you want to put in there. We're gonna roll. Shout out to my man Chris Whitlock for showing up. So what you got? You want to chime in on that? There's more than one customers. Most of these are Fortune 500 companies. Anheuser-Busch is up there. I'm sure Allstate's up there. State Farm is up there. I think Advanced Auto Parts is probably top 500. Mitsubishi's international company. So we got a lot of failure going out there. Chris, you got any comment on that?
So with those ones in particular, were those because of single factor authentication as well?
Yes. They didn't come out and say that, but yes.
That's probably the most concerning portion about that. You know, these big names are the ones who don't have the best principles, the best practices in place. You know, the bare minimums. But yeah.
Well, shout out to fully managed product. I can see SnowFlake passing the security responsibility, but you got to remember though, it's a shared responsibility, right? They give you your tools, so they're responsible for the infrastructure, setting it up, securing it, securing a data center, right? So sharing responsibility. You as the customer, you as the vendor know the classification of your data and how to secure it. So. I always kind of cringe a little bit. So, because I get a lot of companies thinking, oh, I'm in AWS, I'm good. I'm in I'm good. That is a no. So, let's see. Shout out to my man. Good afternoon. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Yep, passwords are getting easier to crack. Shout out to Olsen, 100%. Let's see. Ticketmaster was seen responsible for the Yep, SnowFlake assumes his customer 100%, 100%. What's up? Shout out to my man. Glad you could join me. He's the one that said credit to monitoring would probably be $8 instead of $100. So it'll be straight $5 billion. But no, shout out to him. Glad he could join me. Let's see. MFA should be standard practice across board. Oh, facts. Let's see. It's always a project manager doing it. Won't listen to you. No, that's true. But that's why we got cybersecurity professionals. That's why we're in the industry. Facts. I didn't see that. I need to look up there. So they were talking about. Go ahead and chime in on that, Chris. They had shared responsibility in the SnowFlake model already.
Yeah. So I just dropped the link over there for Snowflake's shared responsibility model. I think you have to put that into chat for them to see that or share that on your screen. But
yeah.
It's just kind of fascinating. It's basically the same thing, just like you see on Azure or AWS for the shared responsibility model. Mm-hmm. It just outlines in more detail on who is responsible for what.
No, but like you said, you would think so far that MFA would be so basic we wouldn't even have to talk about it. So, but obviously it's not.
Yeah.
No,
it's not basic for them. I just don't understand why they don't have that as a basic. Like you get SnowFlake, boom, you off the bat you should have MFA, no questions.
No, true. Oh, that's me looking at. I gotta figure it out.
Okay. That's all right.
No, that was me. I was looking at LinkedIn. I was confused. It wasn't sure what I thought. But that's the kill chain right there. Shout out to me. He mentioned it. Then I went out and found it. So we'll just go through that real quick. I'm gonna put us at the bottom. So go ahead. Caesar.
Have you guys thought about it? Is this company even doing like regular audits? Because how they didn't catch that? Something as simple as that.
Well, you would think because Ticketmaster would at least do PCI, and I think PCI you got to do a yearly audit. But once again,
PCI that's a for big me, company.
Yeah, PCI for me, it's a little light. I think after a while, and we talked about this, I think they probably bought so many other gadgets and next gen firewalls and all kind of stuff, and people forget the basic stuff a lot of times. so
They unfortunately they do. They don't keep it kiss, but
So I think that's where. Let me run through this real quick. I'm gonna let you chime in. So this is the attack pathway. So info stealer, before you using your customer slash personal data, the info stealer steals your passwords, and you see acquire SnowFlake's credentials from the info stealer logs. UNC uses it. The crazy thing is some of those passwords was 2 years old, and they still were working on SnowFlake. Then once they got in, they could go to the database or external storage regions. Then they else was traded, meaning they stole it and sent it to somewhere on the internet, right? So that's the basic. But the crazy thing is some of those passwords are 2 years old. So number one is they use MFA, and number two, they never expired those passwords. So those are the two big things coming out there. Let y'all chime in on that.
were those people even in the company, or were those companies even still using that company? Because I don't understand how those passwords were 2 years old and still there. Again, it falls back to the audit.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of times people use the same user ID and password. So when unks get in there, they just brute forcing those usernames and passwords. They could do, I think one of them is called stuffing. So you just try to brute force, and you know those passwords are good because they work somewhere else. So you're just gonna try them one time. They're not gonna lock because you just try them what you found, what they stole. Then they just go through and keep trying them until they work.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's also
Unfortunately.
important to note too on the maybe lack thereof of proper or regular security awareness training as well. You know, if the engineers or
Yep.
lower level would have been more aware of what should have been implemented, maybe it would have made a difference. It's possible that it wouldn't have though.
Yeah.
The crazy thing is because I've been doing it so long, awareness just seems so small. I don't think a lot of people take it seriously. So I used to joke, but not joke. I
True.
told my boss we need to fire one person a year, then everybody pays attention. That's all.
That is true.
We need to fire one
Usually
person every year, and everybody pay attention. Go ahead,
usually
see.
the smallest thing in life is the ones that make the biggest impact when they're not around.
Mm-hmm.
And people take that for granted. It's just a simple just training people. It's like, hey, you have it in your policies. Let's use MFA, and then boom, you get caught with single. And by the looks of it, there's no audits because now we're talking about 2 years back of credentials. That why every 90 days, 60 days, whatever time frame, why the system doesn't make you switch the password,
Yeah,
makes you switch the password, and you can't use the same password
yeah.
8 or 10 times afterwards.
Shout out
It's
Stiggs
just
24. Shout out. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
I,
Yeah.
I
it's
just
just
figure
I don't.
Hold
Oh,
up,
go
Jupiter.
ahead.
What's up,
Go ahead.
Jupiter?
Yeah,
Go ahead. Go
yeah.
ahead,
I'm sorry.
Jupiter.
I'm just coming at this from a just like I said. Somebody said it just keep it simple, stupid. But if you haven't changed the if you haven't changed the password in God knows 2 years, you're supposed to do that in your Active Directory. At least it forces you to change it. And when you net user, you have to change it every so often. And as for a pen tester, like if you haven't changed your password in 2 years, God, you just made this. You might as well just hand the password to me because you made this so easy.
Yeah, that's
And
why I said they're gonna get sued to be negligent. Keep going, Jupiter. I think they're gonna get sued for
and
negligence
this
for
looks
that
like
one.
more of a social engineering
Yeah,
attack.
social engineer
Most
attack, yeah, phishing.
that's all it basically looks like. And then looking at
Hmm.
and I circle back to the compliance, like when you're dealing with, and this is why the burnout is real in cybersecurity because it's just like you're telling them and telling them, and look, here's a policy. This is what you need to do, and this is the risk, and these are the threats. You're fighting that uphill battle, and that's why most of us in cybersecurity we don't want to stay in it no more because it just becomes like a hill not worth dying on after a
Yeah,
while.
but like you said though, Jupiter, I think Caesar said the same thing Chris said. If you just do the basic check on, you could expire that password after 6 months. So you
Yeah,
forcing them to change it. So they didn't even do the basic stuff to even help themselves, right? So even if you did single factor, if you at least force them to change their password like every 6 months, it didn't even have to be anything crazy. They probably would have probably stopped this hack, right? With something just as
it's
basic, right? Which is a standard auditing check from a standard scan.
just no. I guess no good practice or regular credential hygienes or whatever words you want to use. But it's just is nuts. And this attack path, it goes directly to Snowflake or actually goes back to Ticketmaster.
Well, kind of both the passwords let them attack Ticketmaster that was using Snowflake.
Exactly. So who would Snowflake be blamed as well? Because right now everybody is
No,
going for the big guy being
Snowflake,
Ticketmaster.
Snowflake. I don't think will be blamed, but they will be blamed because, and this happened to AWS. They're going to say you need to put guardrails to help companies like Ticketmaster. You shouldn't be able to configure your software, and they need to pick a MFA vendor, right? And
But
so they should start forcing. And AWS is starting to do stuff like that.
But here's another thing. The reason why they're going to get blamed because I don't know if anybody's vets or military, but in the army they say, well, you supposed to put the instructions on there to the lowest common denominator or dummy proof, and that's what's going to end up happening. Well, you're supposed to you write it, make it simple for me. Oh, step one, do this, this, and that, and you're writing it to the lowest common denominator.
But Jupiter, we get short. I looked in their documentation. I got a screenshot. In their documentation, as big as hell is, please cut up on MFA because this is a very critical thing. I mean, it's big as hell in their documentation.
Oh my god!
So I'm gonna show it. It's coming up. So I'm leaning a little towards Snowflake, but let me read a couple of these real quick for you. It's a little bit of both. Therefore, we're supposed to perform some kind of security facts on that. Then security needs to be improvement. Yeah, but for me, I guess because I've been in DoD so long and IRS is. We're the company that's configuring Snowflake. If something happens, we're going to get the fine, right? I work for the Department of Revenue. If anything happened to our servers in AWS, it's our fine, right? So it's going to be Ticketmaster's fines, not AWS. Now, if Ticketmaster's finds something Snowflake's done wrong, it's going to flow down to Snowflake. But it's, to me, just looking high level, Snowflake did what they were supposed to do, right? They gave them all the tools and they just didn't use it. I'll let anybody want to chime in on that.
So I also sent you a screenshot. So on that link for the Snowflake shared responsibility model, at the bottom of that, it talks about the compliance section, and it states that Snowflake assists with the support of compliance inheritance for high trust, HIPAA, PCI, and FedRAMP.
I saw that.
So they do assist.
I'm sharing it now. Chris, hold tight, and we can talk right to it.
It's crazy.
Yeah, you're good.
I'm seeing the message as well that Reina wrote, and it's true. I'm with you. That was what we were saying earlier.
And they have to follow the NIST standards, like it's 800-70, whatever it is. I'm like, this, even if you don't do continuous monitoring or just basic auditing every quarter, at least do it every 6 months or do something.
2 years is too long. 2 years is ridiculous.
Right.
That's too much.
Way too long.
And it's too much.
But the problem is real quick is, and I get on these guys about this all the time, is unless there's a government oversight agency making people do stuff, people are not going to do it. Like when I worked at the state, the IRS says you got to do X, and we're going to come. If not, we're going to get you. Say, I mean, you DOD or FISMA, they're going to roll up on you. Hey, are you doing? If not, we're going to hit you with the bag.
The funny thing is, when I used to work for Raytheon and the defense company, the government said, no, you are doing it. The defense company, you are doing it. It was a double-edged sword, but I'm sorry, it was a double-edged sword, but you were forced to do it.
Fast.
Yeah. But it's like,
I think that's what's missing, though. Go ahead, Caesar. But that's why I tell guys, if you don't have the government agency with the big back, people are going to get lazy.
But it's the same exact thing that I was telling you guys last week. When people, aka companies, start getting hit with these fines that I'm talking about big fines, that their pockets will go negative, they'll think about these type of basic things a lot more. But unfortunately, these fines are probably not. If they get fined, what, $1,000 when they're making millions?
It's gonna be 10 million. It's gonna be 10 million, but it's no money to those guys.
It's nothing. 10 million for companies that are making what, trillions? No, that's nothing. Do it backwards now. Do it backwards.
But the thing is, companies are trying to cut costs and it's all about their profits. At the end of the day, like say if they get hit with a ransomware and you tell them prior to this, if that ever happens, make sure you back up your data. Make sure you got this, and that. Make sure you check your firewall. Do not pay the ransom because you're not supposed to pay it, but they'll end up doing it on the side. So they don't want it. But it's like, they always want to cut the cost and cut the cost or make their profits.
Money talk.
Money talk. That's where, and it's like you ask myself, like, well, what am I doing here for you?
But that's
Yeah.
that's honestly the situation. I truly believe this happens and you get a fine for 20 million. I promise, Snowflake and Ticketmaster is gonna go right ahead and think about this again, because Ticketmaster is getting blamed, but Snowflake's the main source is because of them. If they had something as basic,
What do you mean, man? Snowflake gave them what they needed to do, configure it. They didn't configure it, man. Why are you blaming Snowflake?
they should have had MFA as a basic.
They told them they told them they need to configure MFA. There's 20 different MFA companies though. But I see you can kind of make these are grown companies, man. You but I ain't what you said. I'm like, I guess for me,
Yeah.
as an old guy, they need to take responsibility. But I don't know. I hear what you're saying, Caesar. I go back and forth. Go ahead, Chris. I see you.
So I was just going to mention, I mean, it's just like with your Google account, for an example, Google sends you push notifications. Hey, you don't have two-factor set up. Do you want to set it up? No, no, I'm good. I think
Right.
that's the same situation here. It's not that that there's no way that they didn't know that they should have had it enabled. You know, um, Now
So
some could argue that Snowflake should have it enabled by default, but
oh,
there's also few services that have that so far.
But
The
you're
problem
like
is you can
you're
pick, there's different MFAs you can pick from, right? Go ahead,
but you
Yeah.
know
Jupiter.
what?
Go ahead, Jupiter.
Your banks make you have multi-factor for a reason.
exactly. So let's do it backwards. Let's say Snowflake already had MFA as basic. Now, if Ticketmaster took that off, at that point, Snowflake shouldn't even be even in the conversation, not even in the news, period, because Ticketmaster was the one who took it off. But at this point, Snowflake is giving them the option. Yeah, you do have that option. You don't want to take it, you don't have to take it.
And
Right.
this circle back like this is why technology is going to be the death of us. But I think I'd rather do things by paper money because there's no paper, there's no digital trail. But
I guess so.
this is why I don't like putting my credit card numbers
Oh,
in
fine.
certain. This is why, because all it takes is that one time, and it's like I don't know.
No, this is a
Yeah.
good point though, Justin, and I see this a lot, especially with SOC 2 type twos. Having personally seen organizations pick and choose artists who will look at things in their favor, especially when it comes to third party. Yeah, you got to be careful a lot of times because a lot of third parties aren't they're subjective really because they're paying them. So I think I see that a lot too. And shout out to Jim. I think our Ticketmaster fees are going to go up too. Shout out. So.
They got to make their money back.
Well, they're definitely gonna get that.
So yeah, so
Or
that's
your taxes going to
Capitalism,
get high,
capitalism.
or your taxes are going to go up a little bit because it's like somebody's got to pay for the insurance.
no, that's true. Let me hit this quick slide, fellas. We found this, and we're gonna talk about this at the end. Snowflake has CIS benchmarks. If you put it in Rapid7 or Nexus, it'll scan your database for you and tell you what's wrong for it. And we did a quick look, and we're gonna look at MFA was like the third check on there for you to cut on. So this lets you know Ticketmaster wasn't doing basic stuff, especially a large company. You need to figure out what your benchmark is. CIS, Schism, Stigs, NSA. There's a few out there. Pick one and just scan it. And I'm sure all of them has MFA in it. So that lets you know that to me, that lets you know that I think once again, Ticketmaster was close to being negligent on that. Anybody want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I mean that's where it just comes in with just the best practices, like MFA, it's been stated for a while now on the fact that that should be, like a minimum, especially for these larger companies that are responsible for all of this personal information. Of all things, like at least having it on those systems. And something else I don't think you discussed yet is how like Ticketmaster has also gone out of their way to talk about their infrastructure as well, which I think also
Yeah.
plays a role in this attack.
Yeah, I didn't even.
So
I'll bring that up. I didn't really talk about
yeah.
that. You got something on that, Caesar? You want to add? Or you good? Jupiter, you got anything to add to that? But
No, it's just like I think I hit my key points. Is just it looks like a social engineering attack, and it's just like with these companies, it's like and like I said, getting back into the group, it's just like, and like I said, I look at this profession, it's like these companies, like, I bet you the legal team and the stakeholders, like I said, they not sleeping at night right now because this is a ramification that they got to pay. And right now, everybody's pointing fingers. Who's going to take the blame? Who's going to take the fall on the sword? And this is how this is happening. So
somebody getting fired. A couple people getting fired over that. That's big.
I,
That whole
I bet that CISO is going to get fired.
I think
You
everybody
think
might.
so? You think so?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
CISO. I think
he get that chopping block.
the CEO, if like Equifax, their stock got cut in half. If their stock get cut in half because of this stuff, everybody gone.
Oh yeah, this whole new board member.
Everybody, the board gonna take everybody out. Fact.
PBO apply.
PBO trying to sleep better at night, man. Our money ain't good money. That's what they tell you, good man. Our money ain't good money.
Get us a job. You best.
Man, I ain't got no hair now. Shit, you think I start taking that? I really ain't gonna have no hair. Let me read a couple of these real quick.
You know what? I put it to you like this. I look at this profession. I look at this profession like this. I'll give you the black and white writing, and I'll tell you. But if you don't listen, hey, it was on you. I gave you the information.
Hey, man.
It's on you. And if you don't come at me,
but you know this, Jupiter, and it took me years to figure this out.
Yeah,
I can tell you the right way to do, but if it costs X amount of money, sometimes they won't accept the risk, Jupiter. That's above my pay grade.
And this is why I don't go above beyond anymore. I'll be like, you know what? Look, here it is. It'd be like, look, it's up to you. It's up to you at this point.
But to my boss, he got paid because I sent an email. He goes, "Why you send that email?" I told him straight up, "Hey man, this is CYA, man. I want to let everybody know. I told you, and you disagreeing with what I say, man. I work for you, but hey, I need my stuff in writing.
You gotta protect yourself at all times, and I make sure when I send that email, I forward it to my personal email. Make sure I have in case he doesn't want to delete it. So no.
So yeah, let me read a couple of these in the chat. Now this is a good point, Justin. Just jumping on that. In order to get repeat business, third-party auditors will someone look the other way. I've seen that. Shout out to my man John for joining us, one of the day ones. Welcome to the party. I need to get some sound effects, Chris W. I need to get my sound effects game up.
Woo, woo, woo. You gotta get a soundboard.
I know, man. I'm still
we need to talk to Dr. Ozier.
Yeah,
we need to patch it. We need to patch it.
Yeah, he allowed me a few bites of shit. Let me see what my man J.R.R. said. We got cybersecurity leadership lead to the all-facts. Too many folks still struggle with asset management. We respect the latest lab biz where tech will help. No, facts on that. And once again, I think he's just reiterating what we said. We're struggling to do the basics. We don't even know all the assets we have. So that's part of basic stuff that we're struggling with. So,
and the bad thing, most of these cybersecurity positions, they want all this experience here, there, that. But it's like, dude, come on now. Like, really, this is a utopia unicorn. Yeah, nah.
Entry-level jobs, 10 years.
Yeah, shout out to Jim. Ours jumping. I'm kind of on Caesar's side. We don't need more fines. We need more class action lawsuits.
Yeah,
law of the deepest pockets. Now that's kind of what Caesar was getting on that bandwagon.
Unfortunately, people understand one thing. That's why you think there's tickets. When you do something traffic, you get a ticket, and you now want to do it again. Everybody understands when you start getting fines, when they start digging in your pockets. That's when people want to understand, or they pay attention a little more.
That's true.
Or when you start writing people up, like, you know, like just for your CYOA, like we used to do MFRs. You're like, look, okay, if this wasn't done or this wasn't updated, hey, I'm covering my behind. Here's this memorandum for record. You get one, the manager get one. Project. I'll be like, no, I'm covering myself. No,
but
they will throw you underneath the bus quicker than hurry.
But you from the government because you gotta get an ATO, authority to operate. So people are looking at it. Then from that ATO, they tell you, okay, this is how many cat ones you had or critical findings. So it's hard to hide, man. It's straight out there. So like you said, that makes it a lot of people more accountable because those are really documented in executive summaries, like you said, memorandums. Because when you're trying to get ATOs for big systems in the government, that's kind of like a different ball game. Let me hit a couple of these slides real quick. Hold up, Caesar. We're gonna look at this NIST. I think it's 161, if I remember correctly. We're gonna look at you said the incident response life cycle. We're doing a post-incident activity, aka post-mortem. That's what we used to call it, DOD. We're gonna look at the dead body once the system got hacked. We're gonna figure out what's going on and how we could prevent it so we don't end up on the news. And post-incident activities, the big ones are in red. What could we be done to prevent similar incidents from occurring in the future, and what could be done to improve detection of similar incidents, right? So those are the two big things we're going to hit tonight. Once again, keep putting any questions or things in the chat. From I misspelled post-mortem. I put post-mortem like it's an old modem, but slash hotwash. We're going to talk about misconfiguration, private traffic, encryption, ingress traffic. How do they steal your data? Where did the data go? MITRE ATT&CK, then the big one, MFA, Beyond Trust, Okta's a big one, and YubiKeys. And shout out to the chat. He asked me, no, MFA is not required in Azure. I'm sorry, in AWS. I just set it up. What they do is kind of like SnowFlake. They said it's required. They do give you a big red mark on your admin, but they don't force you to have it. Let's grab a couple more of these in the chat. Caesar MFA costs money. It's another service that they have to buy. Shout out to her. She talking about, like we were talking about, stuff costs money. Security's not free. It's out there. He was right. Yep, set up. So that's what he said. Thanks. Brother Michael, one of the day ones. I bought tickets to a show a week ago. Then Ticketmaster news check my. You better you need to go get a new credit card ASAP, man. You better cancel that one you said.
And get a new identity.
In there. Yeah, facts. Get a whole new identity. MFA
A quick question: how much does the MFA cost?
It's cheap.
How much in average?
Oh, it's not $6 if you own Cisco Duo, and since I lab every day, your first 10 is free. So I don't pay for anything.
So let's say $10 per person.
It was $6. It's take up more towards $5.
$6 per person, correct?
Yes, $5.
How many employees does Ticketmaster? Let's say Ticketmaster has what, 2,000? Just easy numbers, 2,000 employees. How much money did they lost? And how much money would it spend or invest? Yeah, because I understand it might cost money, but I think the damage was gonna be worse.
But nobody ever think they're gonna get hacked. See, that's easy to say after fact, but people like I've been hacked in 30 years. Man. So,
but you even tell me all the time, company, security is when they have to, not because they want to.
Facts,
and that's a mentality that people should change.
I like that MFA mafia. I like the paper.
Mafia.
I always tell people. I always tell. Oh, go ahead, sir.
I might use that for a shirt actually. MFA mafia.
No.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to add on there that with the cost for like MFA, for an example, you also have to take into consideration, your backup methods as well. Because, like if you only have a couple security keys and you lose those, an engineer gets upset because you just fired him for layoffs or something, that could completely destroy everything. So that's another thing that should be taken into consideration.
Right. Yeah, but long story short, you're correct. But on because I'm an AWS, you can have a root key inside their key management. So you give the engineer the second root key. So if they destroy the second one, you can regenerate it from the root, and you keep that chain of trust. But now that's definitely a lot of people don't think that. So yeah, you do have to make sure you're handling your keys in the correct way.
I always say like the security, and it's like security is always paramount. I'll be like this, pretend you have a house. You want to try to security is an art. You want to try to secure that thing because your valuables is either your children, loved one, maybe a safe, your stash collection. You always want to make sure you always approach security as you're just securing your loved ones in your home.
No, facts. But let me put this down at the bottom. This is from SnowFlake, their security addendum. So I read contracts a lot in my past life. So long story short, the agreement. Then you see SnowFlake's utilize infrastructure as a service. You can actually spin it up in AWS or Azure. You can just get a tenant and put their database inside your infrastructure, or you can connect to theirs. There's different ways to do it. And my favorite one, they talk about SnowFlake maintains a comprehensive documented security program based on a big dog NIST 800-53 industry recognized successor framework. One of my favorite frameworks. So I just want to throw that out there. Shout out to the big dog.
We know.
I don't do little frameworks now. I'm just shout. Chris Whitlock, shout out to him. I'm starting leaning towards the CSF a little more, and the CMMC. I'm trying to give it a little more love, but I'm an old guy because I did DOD and that's what they push for 800. So I've been doing 800-53 for about 20 years. That's how long I've been doing it. So it's a little, it's got kind of baked into my soul. So once again, that's Ticketmaster, just talking about some of the things. We looked at the little video, breaking the silos, different frameworks, different connectors around the world, right? Different data consumers. So, and two is they look like they were hot. I wasn't really familiar with them, but obviously there's a lot of bigger companies that's using SnowFlake. So once again, I'm an AWS guy. Their version of that is Redshift, which is pretty similar to that. So warehousing, operational data stores, data lakes, that type of data infrastructure. And as a cybersecurity professional, especially if you need to get in security architecture, you need to understand, at least at a high level, those different types of architecture, different types of databases, how to communicate, how do you secure them. And when we're going to go through at the end, when you're looking at the CIS checks, so you can understand them at a high level, so you can talk to the DBAs, infrastructure, DevOps to make sure they're configuring that stuff correctly. Once again, this is me pulling stuff from SnowFlake. They had quite a few, like AWS, quite a few security features in there. If you look at the networking, they got private connectivity, network policies, firewalls, network subnets, VLANs you can set up, integration, access. They give you user roles, authentication, sessions, authorization of objects, masking policies. If the data was masked, and we're going to get into that. If they got the user and the data was masked, they wouldn't be able to look at it. So it seemed like a lot of tools that SnowFlake have out there to use that Ticketmaster and those other organizations weren't taken available of. Once again, as a security professional, we need to understand some of those techniques so we can help teams set those up. Or two is, I think once we look in the CIS benchmarks, they're requiring some of those setups in the SnowFlake database. So once again, Ticketmaster seems to be a little negligent because they didn't have a lot of basic features set up. So anybody want to chime in on that? I'm just rambling. Okay, let me see what my man Justin said. I use them NIST frameworks as reference a high level in corporate. They're a helpful guy, resources, though they're not facts. That was probably only negative about NIST. Unless you were at DOD doing sticks, they're not really required. Like, well, I think that's the big difference between CMMC and the 3PLs. They're going to make that stuff required, and you're going to have a third-party audit that the government's going to be in charge of.
Yep,
you pay them, but they're reporting to government. So if they don't do it right, the government can fire them. My LinkedIn has been snapped with SnowFlake ads for last year, so their marketing initiative is on point. Shout out to I should have put a little bit of that on security.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. Let's keep rolling. Oh man, let's see. I'm running out of gas already. And this was in their document. I cut it out of their documentation. Biggest crap right there.
It's funny. We come back to the same thing.
Yeah, SnowFlake, multi-factor. And I'm just going to jump down to attention. At a minimum, SnowFlake strongly recommends that all users with at least the admin account role be required to use MFA. I mean, you can't get any bigger than that. At a minimum.
SnowFlake strongly recommends all users. Oh my god.
So I mean, I got that out of their documentation. So they were sweet. So
there's a disclaimer right there, but wow.
So I mean, I can understand what Caesar said and some other people said. They should maybe force them to have the MFA to do it. But I mean,
because I understand everybody, just like you said, they're big boys. Everybody's an adult. But if I give you a house with locks and keys, and you unlock and you take out the locks, that's your problem. I should not be in the conversation. I should not even be with my name out there.
Right. So for me, I guess because I've been doing security forever, that's on Ticketmaster, man. I gave you all the objects for you to do. I mean, you $1 billion company. I gotta hold your hand too. So I don't know. I'm kind of waffling. Go ahead, chime in on that, Jupiter.
It seems like that, and it's like, man, you know what? Look, y'all don't pay me enough to actually be your babysitter, dude. Come on now.
He goes, you don't pay me enough.
So so that's kind of real quick. That's their flow. And once again, I'm a Cisco Duo person. Enter your SnowFlake credentials. There's 3. You can get the push. You can have it call me. You can put the password. It goes up to do it, and it sets you. So that's right on their documentation, man. Biggest crap, man. So they have all the tools and AWS like that, but they were getting a lot of flack from Congress. They're like, dude, we gave you the tools. You got to configure for your classification of data. So, like I said, I'm kind of elitist on that too. So,
Now, with that part said, though, do you think that Snowflake, just to prevent this in the future, may turn it to a default
Hey,
for MFA?
yeah, because they're gonna get, like Jupiter said,
yeah,
they're gonna get a ton of flack, and I'm
yeah.
sure a couple
Yeah.
senators gonna jump on them about it. So I think they're gonna start turning it on.
I have a question related to piggybacking of what Chris said. Let's say now, let's invert this. Let's say Snowflake did have MFA stock. Would you think that Ticketmaster would be going back and forth with Snowflake? Oh no, you did it. Oh no, I did it. Who did it? I honestly think that if MFA was from factory, I don't think Ticketmaster could even try to even blame them.
So I don't think Ticketmaster's trying to blame Snowflake.
Or at that point there wouldn't have been a back and forth.
I don't think it's a back and forth. I haven't seen it because what happened is Ticketmaster slid that in and said only single factor. Then you had the big gorilla mandate come in and back that up. So I don't think Ticketmaster has a leg to stand on. Because you $1 billion company, because like we talked about, those are your fine. That's your responsibility. That's your job as a CISO. You gonna blame the intern? I mean, so I don't know. That's my thought pattern on it. Maybe I'm just a little too passionate about it. But for me, I'm like, they're not going back and forth because they shot that was smooth. They're only attacking customer with single factor authentication. Then you had the best company in the world in security and backed that up and said they were negligent. So I think Ticketmaster is not saying jack. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, just like what was just put in chat there. So as an aircraft mechanic, no one reads the notes and cautions until something screws up. I think a lack of experience may play into higher levels or a lack of support for IT and security inputs.
Well, I think my issue with that, my fault, Chris, is did they do audits? Did they do assessment? Did you have a third party come in? Right. So for me, if you had those basic things, I'm sure they would have highlighted that. So that means to me, their upper management accepted that risk. That's too basic not to pop up. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like that's why I asked about, if you thought Snowflake would convert over to a default MFA, because I truly believe, I mean, there's a few different examples in the past too where a breach like this occurred and then it actually sends a wave through the industry. So this could be it's going to be more of a push to start enabling that MFA. These other companies are also coming forth as well, stating that they had the same problem. And so hopefully, unfortunately, 500 million, persons' documents were stolen. But, it's should hopefully make a wave to make it more secure in the future.
Yeah, I agree with that. But once again, I like I said, I agree with you. You can set defaults to help, but to me, if you can't get this basic things, you're gonna have other bigger things that's gonna be in the way, right? So, but I do. That's low hanging fruit, so that will be easy, I'm sure, to set up. To say we're not gonna start unless you have some approved MFA vendor in there and it's set up to do it. So I do see the value of that. I guess for me, it's just so low hanging fruit that if you can't get this right, you shouldn't really be in the industry. But I don't know. That's me overreacting again. Me being an elitist again. Shout out to me. I'm gonna give me a shout out. But this one right here, and we're gonna dig into a little more is controlling your traffic, right? So coming in for Amazon, I got a better picture coming up. But you come through here, you come through your security groups, which is your stateful firewall inside AWS. Down there, let me get us out a picture, is your Snowflake. So you can only get to Snowflake unless you come through your AWS infrastructure, right? So if somebody took a user, if they're not logging into your AWS, they couldn't get to your Snowflake, right? And let me get to that better slide of that. And I think that's one thing, especially as cybersecurity people as architect, See over here before you can on prem you can get to your internal stage in Snowflake. You could go upside your Azure net and get to those start. You look at the after, you go to on-prem, you go to your Azure or your AWS, then you can get to Snowflake. So what does that mean? I can check with Zero Trust. I can make sure your operating system's up to date. I can make sure your virus protection's up to date. When you VPN, I can check for certain IPs because now you're coming from the corporate network, and we're going to dig in that. So there's a lot of things I can start checking when I know what IP addresses you're coming from. Right. And so I think that was one thing from a more advanced cybersecurity and networking thing, controlling your traffic. Two is AWS can check, are those IPs you're coming from? Are those bad IPs coming from hackers, coming from Russia? So there's a lot of next gen firewall stuff you can start looking at from the traffic from where you're logging in from, right? To see if that's a legitimate spot. Anybody want to chime in on the network traffic? So people are being shout out to me for being so yeah, we can keep people rejecting 0-day vulnerabilities are Snowflake. So yeah, so the sad part about it, it would be different if it was a 0-day. Then you can say, okay, that's a high level. Okay, it's hard to stop 0-day. Man, we can't even reset the passwords in 60 days. We at the bottom of the bottom, man. We not even in the middle of the pyramid. We still on the ground. If you talk about MFA, people didn't change their passwords for 2 years and they were still getting in. We not even blocking and tackling. We can't even do basic stuff. But once again, controlling your network traffic, we're gonna dig into that a little bit more. Once again, there's a lot more features come into play. Two is, and me and Chris talked about this, and I even hate using it. Really, you should go in your customers. You can use Azure's VDI or AWS VDI. Now we can say, okay, even though you're using a personal machine, you're going through the VDI. So now you're in the sandbox, right? Now I'm controlling where you go. Now when you go over to Snowflake, I can say you need to be coming from the VDI IP addresses from Azure or AWS. So now I can really control the traffic. I can really control your infrastructure of what can happen to that particular setup, right? So that's when you get in VDI. Now we're talking about DBAs, admins, those super privileges account, right? So that's when your admins should be using VDIs from Azure or AWS, right? Top of the pyramid type stuff. So now if you look at Snowflake on their side, right? That's Snowflake, like we talked about. See those network policies and network traffic? Now, like we talked about, that IP range coming from AWS or your on-prem infrastructure, I can say only those IP ranges can get into Snowflake, right? So now we're talking about controlling your network traffic and your IPs. Now, who can actually get into Snowflake, right? So even if you stole your credentials, if you're coming from a remote location and you're not coming through my cloud specific vendor, you can't get into Snowflake because you're not coming from the correct IP range. Go ahead, Chris. You want some of that?
On the network configuration?
Yeah, you were leaning. I thought you might be doing something else. You were leaning. So I thought you wanted to chime in. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was giving Caesar a hard time because he's just waiting for his plastic Sec Plus card to be able to start flashing that.
Shout out to God. Everybody congratulate Caesar for passing this Security Plus. That is a big accomplishment, though. Shout out to him. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, this is where the whole scenario with Ticketmaster comes in with the misconfiguration is what it all comes down to. So it's just like doing the tunnel with the VDI. You know, that's like a default with the Bitnami images that I've seen.
Yep.
And, you know, that's where configuring it properly, you know, that's all that's required, but it's setting that up. You know, it's just like with the MFA, you know, how you had mentioned like on AWS where you can have the 2 separate root keys in, you know, as a backup. You know, that's great if they configure it that way, but you have to set that up. You know, it's the exact same thing with this.
Is that
like if you were to set up a tunnel, then you could, you know, have it to where like, oh, only when you're in the office or, you know, set times a day. You know, there's a lot of other things they could do with it.
I don't know, Caesar. Now you brought that up, but no, you're correct. But two is as we go through the CIS benchmark, They put that as one of the checks. You controlling the network policies, and so that's in there. So the sad part about it is the CIS is a known benchmark, pretty basic to hook up a scanner and scan your infrastructure to come up with the basic stuff. But yeah, we about to chime in. That's coming up. Rollbacks, security's coming in. Role-based security's coming in. Masking, linked to that, and how users and how that come together and that trifecta. So that's definitely coming up. Anybody else want to chime in on that? Let's see. Give me the link. Oh, that might be men.
That's men, right?
I didn't even think it was now till you mentioned it. I dropped it down at the bottom, man. I think I get 10 people up if you want to come up, man. So come on up. Just finesse. Shout out
Something
to
that
him.
would be interesting, so CIS has that benchmark. So why is SnowFlake not sending that out to new signups? Maybe they weren't actually aware that there was even benchmarks for it. They never looked it up.
I was surprised when I saw him, but once again, though, as the CIS, I mean, I flip. I guess is that SnowFlake's job? I don't know your level of security. It's probably in their documentation somewhere. I don't know, man. I just think at a certain level, that's what you pay cybersecurity people to do, right? But
True.
shout out to Caesar though. I guess we need to be helping them at a certain level. So I'm a little perplexed on that one a little bit. I'm a little chime in on that, man. Oh, let me activate him. What's up, man? Chime in on that, man, if you want. Put him on the
Hey,
spot.
what's happening?
What's going on?
What are we talking about? Like helping Caesar?
Nah, Caesar good, man. Caesar the chief. You want to chime anything just in general on Ticketmaster? I know we talked about that at a higher level when you've been on top of it, so we just kind of winding it
Nah,
down.
I just actually joined. I think the main thing that Snowflake did was they didn't configure MFA, which was very interesting. Where we talk about the first thing with the NIST controls that you need proper access controls, and they didn't do that, which is very
Real
hard
quick,
to admit,
man.
but they did it.
Was that a SnowFlake problem or Ticketmaster? SnowFlake was like, I gave you a lot of options, right? Ticketmaster, that's their fines, their classification of data. So I think you think it's SnowFlakes or Ticketmaster. I think it's Ticketmaster because it's their fine, their classification of data, right? So I'm throwing that out.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me roll through a couple more of these slides real quick. Let's see. Shout out to we just talked about this. See on root keys coming from data at rest from SnowFlake. You can take a hardware root key, then at the bottom is your file. So if somebody comes through and tries to steal your files or your backups now are encrypted, they give you that feature. So once again, SnowFlake, we're giving them a lot of services to use. I just don't think they were using them. Once again, I just pulled this out their documentation. I didn't look at it for 3 or 4 hours. I just skimmed it for about an hour, and I just start pulling slides up because a lot of infrastructure sit on top of AWS for some of their stuff. So they get a lot of those AWS services that you can use inside their cloud center. So once again, they give you a lot of services you can use. So anybody want to chime in on that one?
No, I agree with that. They must be using a lot of services, but then again, it comes back to the scope again, right? Like, if you're not using a particular service, you need to be on top of it that you're not using it, and either stop it
or take it out,
or just understand that you don't need it anymore, right?
Yeah.
And that comes up with the assessment things that we have talked about. You have to understand what's the scope. You have to understand who's responsible, what are the roles, and then everything becomes easy, right? I think organizations don't take risk management properly. They just do it as a compliance checkbox activity. But if you do risk management properly, I think 95% of the attacks would actually go away. You wouldn't even be worried about that because you have proper documentation. You understand who's responsible for the stuff. You understand your IDAM properly. You understand your network configuration. But I think it's just a lack of commitment from leadership that they don't want to do it.
Yeah, but we talked about this at a high level though. Is I think risk management is a high level function, and only mature companies even talk about risk, right? But you would think of 500, I'm Ticketmaster is a Fortune 500 company, so you would think they would talk about risk, but I don't see a lot of mid-size, or I know small companies don't talk about risk at that level. What's your thoughts on that, man? I just don't see. I think it should be, but I just see only mature companies really talk about risk at that level. I think man might be hung. You there, man?
No, I think his. No, because look at his mic.
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna try to drop him and bring him back up. Man, you there? Man, drop out and come back up. Anybody else want to chime in on that? But once again, I was pulling these out their documentation, and they weren't doing a lot of basic stuff. So let's see what my bingo. Many don't care enough about risk assessment because it can. Oh, it's going to cost you some money. Yeah. It's going to cost you some money. It's going to cost you some money, man. What's up, Ty? Glad you could join me. Definitely one of the day ones. So once again, let's keep going. Once again, SnowFlake gives you a lot of tools, and my man just talked about this as part of the access control. But you could have masking here, meaning I logged in as John, but it's unauthorized, so I can't see phone or the SSN. Let me bring men back up. I just heard him.
Yeah, I'm about to drop off, but y'all have a good evening.
I appreciate you, Jupiter.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for joining me,
You
man.
have a good one, Jupiter.
Yep.
Sorry, I got kicked out.
No, you're fine. I'll just highlight that real quick. I only think mature companies really handle that risk correctly. I don't see that at small to mid-sized companies. Jay, what's your thoughts on the maturity of the company and risk management?
Well, I think people just take it really as a compliance activity, as I said before. And look, if you consider risk management as an army function, everyone has their roles. Everyone knows what their responsibilities are. And the army is basically one of the most disciplined areas. We wouldn't go into the politics and other stuff, but that they have shown that they're the most disciplined people in the world. And that's what we need in security as well. Once you do risk management properly, you would have a disciplined approach, and you would have all the documentation, all the roles and responsibilities, and you understand what's your infrastructure running as well. So with the SnowFlake stuff, if Ticketmaster had a good risk assessment done, they would know what roles are actually running on Snowflakes. Do we have MFA on for getting into that or not? They would understand their identity and access management properly. But because they didn't do it, and that's why they suffered. They didn't suffer that much. It's the people that suffered, because 236 million people got their identities breached, basically. No privacy, right?
Right.
So that's what I think. You need to have a disciplined approach on how to conduct risk management properly.
I'm going to throw something out here. I need everybody to chime on this. You think we're getting lazy because we got cybersecurity, man? Okay, you got us, but hell, we got cyber insurance. I'm just going to run in the back of your car because I got insurance. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. What people think is that you got a cybersecurity team, everything would be fine. But from my experience, what I think is that we need to understand what our attack threat surface is, right? We don't understand our attack surface properly. Even I had a discussion with one of the SIEM engineers, and he works as a consultant, and work on. And he said, look, I'm a consultant. I go to the organization and I ask them, like, what is your critical asset?
No, I think he dropped.
Cutting in and out.
No, he dropped. Yeah. He'll be back. Chime in on your thoughts on the insurance, Chris. You think that helping, hurting, making us a little reckless because we got cyber insurance? We ain't doing the right thing because we got insurance, so it's less impact.
Yeah, so like I've read a few different articles on it, and basically since I think in 2020 is when the insurance prices really started to skyrocket, mostly from the ransomware attacks. However, like it does seem like a lot of different companies, they feel like, they have insurance for all these other purposes, and then they add on their cyber insurance, and then they feel from the business side that they're okay. Like they have, like liability insurance. So they're like, oh, if somebody trips and falls, tries to sue us, we're fine. And they probably on the business side look at it the same way. I was also going to mention, I think another thing that could play a part in it as well is that they're still getting publicity for it. They're getting free advertisement everywhere.
Yep.
And that, to me now, it happens so often. People don't even get nervous when their stuff get hacked anymore. So
Yeah.
Space Taco,
it's
you can come.
normal.
Space Taco, I dropped the link if you want to come up. We got room for it if you want to come up. Go ahead, Caesar. Chime in on the insurance. What's your thoughts on that?
Oh no, I was just gonna fall back on what Chris says. It just turns it's something normal. It just they're transferring. So if something happens to me, and I know that I'm gonna be covered. Really.
Facts. And, that's part of all the basic security, transferring risk, right?
Yeah,
That's gonna be
transfer.
one. Transfer risk is gonna be one of those, right? So I think that's especially from an IT perspective. A lot of times, management will be like, "Okay, what's our risk? We're not spending money because we got cyber insurance, right?" So,
Well, and that's also where they're saving it. They're kind of gambling their money on it because they're thinking, oh, we could save all this money over a 10-year span. If we get hacked one time, that's probably the way they're looking at it,
no facts.
trying to gamble.
Go ahead, man. Finish up on your insurance thoughts.
No, first of all, my apologies because my phone doesn't like
You
live
good, man?
transmission on YouTube. So
It's
I got on
internet.
my laptop now.
It's all good. It's
Um,
part of the internet. Go ahead, no big deal.
but yeah, look, when you do proper risk assessment, you need to understand that your cyber insurance is not going to help out as well, right? Because there's a particular limit to it.
Facts.
And they ask you to do certain things. Let's say that they say that you need to do vulnerability management, right? And you come in and you create a whole program, but it's not functional, it's not operational. And then they're gonna go like, oh, you are doing vulnerability management, you have the tool, but you're not operationalizing it properly. So why would we actually limit your excess payment for insurance? We're not going to do that because you didn't comply with your contractual obligation. And then the industry doesn't understand that. They say, oh, we are doing it, so okay,
Facts.
the access that we're going to get. But considering big organizations like, let's say, Microsoft or Google, right? They don't understand the reputational damage that comes out of it as well. So maybe they're getting like a $1 million fine, but then the business that they're gonna lose, that's an overhead as well.
Oh yeah, it's the same thing
Yeah,
I was saying earlier.
yeah. But because they're big four, it doesn't affect them that much.
I was gonna
But for a
say,
smaller
yeah,
company, they would go under.
facts, 100%,
Yep,
100%.
100%.
But two is it should be a movie called Too Big to Fail. I think those companies are too big to fail. Azure is too big. AWS is too big. I think Google's too big. I think Rackspace too big. I just think they're too big now, man.
Yeah, no, 100%. Even with the Microsoft hack that happened last year, right? We know that the Russians got in. We
Mm-hmm.
understand what they did. They
Mm-hmm.
exfiltrated a lot of data, but still people are using Microsoft services, right? We are not moving away
Facts.
from that.
Nah, going
You
more
know?
and more. Microsoft gonna take it over.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
365 email sweet. But go ahead. So,
And if you look at the last probably patch Tuesdays that comes out for Microsoft, there are a lot of zero-day vulnerabilities coming out of it, but people are still using it, like Google.
yeah.
I think in May we got 3 0 days for Google, and we're still using Google Chrome. You know why?
Yeah.
Because we're addicted to it. We don't want other things. We don't want to
Well,
explore.
It's changes. It comes with changes. People
Oh,
sometimes don't like changes.
no, I think the other thing, man, I look at it as the other way. I just think they have so much money and they paying those bounties. I think people are really digging into their software now. So they're coming up with some novel attacks that I just think the average company would never figure out. So I don't know. I think I'm on the other side of that. But you're right, it does get disheartening when you see that many 0 days. But I think with the bug bounties, people are coming up with some novel ways to attack where I think in the past they never looked at those ways to attack before, man. What's your 2 cents on that one?
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you that the threat actors are getting much better. The defense side is lacking a little bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't understand the liabilities that are coming out of it as well. And then there was a time where we were actually so confident that we would say we are one step ahead of the threat actor. Now we are three steps back.
Facts. Facts.
Yeah.
100%.
And with all the research and all the studying that I've done, I've realized is that there are multiple attack vectors that the threat actor can actually exploit.
Yeah.
But if you look at probably the last 10 years, the things that were actually um, a bother were phishing emails or social engineering.
Mhm.
But now it's remote code execution, zero click remote
I
executions.
know that's
How
crazy.
can you like think of that? So where is everything going? And with the AI introduction as well, it's gonna be a crazy world. It's gonna be really crazy.
Yeah, shout out to Pegasus. Like you said, it hit your phone and it would just run it, right? So it's just let me let Raina get in. Welcome. Am I saying your name right? Don't let me butcher your name, right? Am I saying that right?
It's Rania.
Right. See, yeah, sorry, my pot. Rania, let you chime in. What you want to chime in on?
Just to echo some of that, I have to go off of some personal experience with company I'm at now. Um, we had $130 million cut from our budget, and they wanted to do it in one chop, like an annual budget. We ended up getting it split into 3 years, but at no point did the leadership actually think to optimize what we were doing. They went to make it look like we made big changes when we dropped a bunch of programs that we didn't necessarily use. But we still were paying for it. So in this instance, I want to kind of say that Ticketmaster, do they are they actually understanding what they have with SnowFlake? Do they have the knowledge to support that program, or are they just, oh, it's a one package deal, we just plug and play? Like, is it more of a lack of knowledge on their end for the lack of configuration?
I think so. I see that a lot, especially something new. It'd be interesting to see how long they have Snowflake, and I see that especially with bigger companies. They just buy so many products, then the people they hire a lot of times they don't want to hire consultants, so people are learning on the fly, so they don't go through and kind of figure out the advanced security features. So I see that a lot, and obviously that's an issue. Like Chris said, trial and error, but I do see a lot of times, especially at companies like you said, even larger companies, they're cutting budget. They're like, you used to be a DBA, dude. I did Oracle, Snowflake, something totally different in the cloud. Oh, you can figure it out, right? So I think a lot of people kind of miss that nuance of digging into security, especially when you got the operational point in security. Because we know one of the first things when the developers can't connect, give me admin on that user, right? So now we got too many privileges, right? So I do see that a lot. So
Yeah. Well, and that's also where like having at least some basic AppSec for the developers comes in, some training of some extent, but also like you said, like just by doing like security awareness training, especially from a developer standpoint, that doesn't mean they're interested in it.
they're not.
Their thing is programming,
They're
not,
not. They're not.
security.
Because they get
Yeah.
paid by the feature, and security gets in the way of a lot of features. I done had shouting matches with CTOs and lead developers over that because I'm messing up. I think they call it velocity is the new term for that, right? How many things you can get out, how quick, but that stuff's not secure, man. Our velocity's high, but we unsecure in our velocity. So
But they don't want to do training. Why? Because it's not been like why would an engineer want to don't want to do no type of training.
Well, security training is a lot of times they believe it's not necessary. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the person, like, we're learning different topics for a domain because we're interested in it, we're drawn to it. That doesn't mean that other people are, like
That
my wife, like she barely even turns on a computer. She probably has 2 hours on a computer in the last 5 years. She does everything from her phone.
I,
Why we picking on
Uh,
Miss Swisslot, man? We need to apologize to the wife, man. I'm not feeling that, man. Shout out to the wife.
hey, it's
Go
not
ahead,
it's
sis.
not a bad it's not
I
a
don't
bad
like
thing. I'm
that.
using it as an example on, it's just like when from a developer standpoint, they're not security. They don't see the purpose in it,
Thanks. Right.
they might not even apply it. So even
that
if you pay and sit them down for 10 hours, that doesn't mean that they're going to pay attention or retain that information or pursue further education for such.
yeah,
So I
that's
mean in the best world they would, but
I'm with you. I agree with you there. But wouldn't you think if what do you think? I guess engineers like the most. I guess security or less work at that point
No, they
because
think if they want to get our features, they want to use the newest feature of that.
I mean at
Especially
that
now, the newest feature now, you can tell nobody's doing security is AI. People talk AI every day and don't talk about security. Machine learning, chat GBT, we just throwing shit in there. We don't really know.
it's true. It just there needs to be a way so we can I guess not. I don't want to use the word convince, but use the word convince is of just learning the basic.
But like I said, my thing, and I say this all the time, that's why you need the government agency with the big bag saying you got to do X or we're going to shut you down, or unless you're doing that internally. But remember, features make money, not security. Right? Security is a cost.
It's true. But let's say if something, let's say if there's a breach, who works?
Oh,
Who's working
facts.
overtime? Who's working overtime now?
Nothing. We just said it. Caesar's insurance gonna pay for it. We good.
No. I'm just saying engineers are going to be working overtime now because now there's a breach. Now they're going to be patching. They're going to be doing a whole bunch of stuff. So the way I look at it, the people skills, soft skills, if there's a way that we can some way talk to them so they can understand why is important for them first, so they can be open and being trained in security.
so I see what direction you're headed there, but the problem is that like cross training other departments to do multiple roles, I don't believe is the right way either. That's like where the GRC comes in, is it's our jobs to make sure that the compliance is in place, to do those checks, to educate people or have those discussions with those other departments like, oh, hey, we had this guy, in AppSec check out your programs and, here's a list of the problems with it. And like the development team will get upset about that, like, oh, we don't want to
Very
do
upset.
this.
Very upset.
But but like that's kind of the process that you have to take, and if the company decides not to pursue it, they don't pursue it. But
My only pushback, I got to push back a little bit. I'm gonna let men
yeah.
chime in. Is you can do that, but now you got an adversarial relationship with your development team. So when you do that, Chris, they're gonna start hiding stuff from you. So what I try to do is AppSec, because I'm gonna bring them in if I have a third party AppSec come in. I'm gonna make sure they're involved, right? I'm gonna make sure they have input so they can have ownership. The way you do it, and I've seen it, we're gonna be at war, man. And I promise you, I've seen VP of development argue with the CISO, and they got the CO in there playing referee because we're stopping their velocity. We're doing too much security. Nobody's else haven't done it. We haven't been hit in 30 years. So, and there's a ton of ways to do it, but you got to hopefully try to come up with a kumbaya moment. What's your thought on that, man? I think you had a few maybe issues of that, man.
No, I absolutely agree with that. Is that I think people don't want to understand what the liabilities are, right? If you go back probably 5 or 6 years, the amount of things that we were using were basically on-prem stuff. Yeah. Now technology has changed. Now we are moving into the cloud stuff. How fast are we actually training our people in understanding what kind of technologies we are using? We are not doing that. Okay.
Not fast enough.
And when you tell them that there's an issue and you need to be trained on it, they take it as We have 15 years of experience, 20 years of experience. Who are you teaching? You're just a new guy. You're just a security person that's coming into the business. But what we have done, or what the industry has done, it has isolated security as a department. And what they expect from us is that once we have the department, we are never going to get breached. But they have to
Yeah.
understand that security is a changing thing. It's always changing. We need to keep training ourselves. And with us, the company has to keep training itself as well.
Yeah.
And that's where the gap is. They don't want to get trained, or they
No.
don't want to invest in education. And one
And
of the risks that I've actually seen organization accepted in the enterprise risk management as well is that lack of training for people.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's one of the risks that's in the enterprise risk register.
Yeah.
yeah, but I think
So
that's for
it is a big
everything.
risk for organizations. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say everything that you said goes like I said. My background's in sales. That happens all the time within sales. Somebody's there in the company for 10 years. You give your 2 cents on how to, I guess, negotiate or something. Oh, but what are you talking about? Yeah, I'm the new guy here, but I have like 25 over you within the industry, and that's lack of training. So everything that you're saying falls back to other type of industry as well, and it sucks.
No, that's true. Hold on real
I
quick.
agree.
Double R, Double R, you got something you want to add to that?
Yeah, just to piggyback off what everyone has said, um, there's pluses and minuses of trying to put responsibility of security on everyone. You know, yes, your security engineers are going to work overtime if you have a breach. Maybe not your software engineers. You know, engineer is kind of a carpet term, but they do two completely different things. Maybe whoever's software engineering at, you know, a company isn't necessarily engineering anything that's used on the internet. So what do they care? Maybe they're only doing in-house intra-network applications. So I think security awareness training is key. And maybe a way to put it into everyone's, you know, like making it mandatory and making it part of a professional assessment, like their annual assessments for raises. Have they had, you know, passwords reset? You know, are they following MFA? Doing something like that as maybe a personal level could encourage people to learn at least the basic minimums of security. As of now, you know, they don't care if someone gets their password stolen. Oh, just reset it. Good to go. That's how
Yeah.
my IT department is. You know, it's not a big deal. And because we don't make it a big deal in a lot of cases, it's not going to be at the forefront of your sales team, of Johnny Joe user getting on your you know, application or website.
No, that's true. So let me hit this slide real quick. I
Hey,
think Vince,
PPO, I'm
yeah,
gonna I'm gonna have to bounce. Hey guys, thank you
that's
very
cool.
much, and I appreciate you having me here.
Oh, I'm sure we're gonna do it more. So two is if you look up, we talking about users roles and what type of users, and you should have least privilege. So one of the things that stuck out to me was Ticketmaster is what type of user credentials got stolen. Like you said, if you got like John is unauthorized user, so if you use it and you didn't have the right authorization of the database, you couldn't see any data. Susan had a authorized at a different level, but she can only see phone numbers. So if you're using users roles with masking, right? So that would cut down. Okay, if they stole a user and it didn't have the proper authorization or the proper function, let me show the next slide. It had some the functions on there. You see here functional user level 1 and 2. So depending on what level that user was, even if they didn't get the right users, they wouldn't be able to see any of the data, right? So that led me thinking that they weren't using proper IAM that men said along with users role, then once again, SnowFlake has masking. I'm sure Ticketmaster was using masking, right? So once again, they're not using the security features that it's available in SnowFlake. So anybody want to chime in on that? Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, just a lack of not utilizing standard practices, I would consider.
Yeah, so too, and once again, shout out to SnowFlake. They got a lot of services and stuff, but once again, these are advanced features. Then what Double R talked about is, are we giving people security training when they became the SnowFlake user or power user or DBA, or did we just set up run? Got a what I see a lot. We got a proof of concept running. Go ahead and put that in production. It's like, dude, there's a lot of securities missing in this proof of concept, right? So I think once again that goes along with learning and training and all that. Let me read a couple of these things in the chat. I do not have a Discord, Aiken. I'm thinking about starting one. I'm in everybody's Discord, but I'm in Space Tacos. I'm in Dr. Ozier's. I'm in KevTex. I'm in Keep It Techies. I'm in I'm probably in 6 Discord. So I don't know. Probably Dr. Gerald. Shout out to Chris Whitlock, men, and Caesar left. We usually in Simply Cyber. So that's the one I usually hang out the most, I think, from that. But I do not have my own Discord yet. I have enough on my plate. Chris is right. You don't want people adding features responsible for security out of the features. Let's see. Look forward to seeing your CISP next. Shout out. Great work. Yep, true. But once again, we just went over the slide. You should be using roles, which is part of, and I think somebody had RBAC up there. Was that me? I can't. Who? Somebody said the RBAC. So masking, depending on the roles, would tell you what you should mask and what that user should see, right? So once again, now you're doing least privileges at a job function level, right? And I don't think Ticketmaster was doing. So if somebody stole the user, if it didn't have the right, once again, masking and wasn't at the right level, you wouldn't even be able to see most of the data anyway, right? So once again, shout out to SnowFlake. Give you a lot of features that Ticketmaster wasn't using. Anybody want to chime in on that? I'm gonna pause for a little bit.
I think another thing that goes along with complacency of security is the rapid expansion of technology and the cloud. 10 years ago, cloud was, maybe the government might have had something. But as far as the general public, it was too expensive for most companies to really think about. And the fact that we've, in a few years span, gone from no cloud to most companies have some sort of cloud. I think there is a lack of understanding for what the cloud is and training on how to actually properly implement cloud infrastructure and be able to have lower echelons secure that cloud infrastructure while still maintaining a usability for less understanding or technically challenged employees.
No, I agree with that. This is supposed to be, which is fuzzy. I didn't do a good job. This is supposed to be the MITRE attack for the Shining Hunters group. That was supposed to be the ones that actually attacked Ticketmaster. So it shows you the reconnaissance, weaponization, delivering exploitation. We're going to dig down a little more than that later. That's coming up when we dig down the CIS. And since this is fuzzy, I just want to let everybody know it is out there. And command and control, action on objectives and the outcome, right? The outcome is their private information is available and they stole it, right? So get that out there. Let me answer. Let me switch over real quick. So we're just going to go over some of the basic CIS benchmarks. These are basically security checks that's put out by, you said, Center for Internet Security. It tells you the basic settings to set up for SnowFlake. I'll shout out to men. He mentioned the attack, the kill chain out there. And when I looked for the kill chain, it came up with the CIS benchmark check. So I was like, oh wow, that's out there. So we're just gonna kind of go through that and see some of the basic things they tell you to do. And we'll just start off the bat with the 1.4, which is cut MFA on. So they didn't do, I mean, it's one of the cool thing is, right, it's automated. So if you put that in your Nexus scan or your Rapid7, you just point it to your SnowFlake, it'll tell you everything you're weak at or you didn't set up, and it'll give you a risk score for if you don't set it up, what that is. So what's your thoughts on that, Chris? I'll let you take first shot at that.
Yeah, I mean, the CIS benchmarks are a great resource, and they have it for a lot of different systems and platforms. It's just like the Stig viewer that we showed before, and you've gone over. It's just the basic security requirements, and so you're going to use it just like anything else. It's very surprising that a larger company like Ticketmaster obviously didn't. I'm kind of curious whether they actually did have this implemented and they just got to MFA and were like, we're good. That's going to cause too much of an issue. But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a level 1.
So, yeah. What's your thoughts on that, man?
Look, I think that people didn't realize that SnowFlake would have some kind of vulnerability and that could be exploited. They thought their identities would be saved, but when the whole SnowFlake thing came out and the identities got leaked, then it was an opportunity for the threat actor to just jump on. So again, in saying that, what I think is that they didn't understand their whole attack surface. They didn't understand what was going to happen when their identities got leaked, and they didn't have any logging mechanism where they could say, oh, like our identities got leaked, let's work on it quickly to remediate that. So it was a lack of all of what NIST tells us, all of what CIS tells us. We didn't do anything, and you got the result now. Simple.
No, that's true. What's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on that, Double R?
Yeah, I have to just mirror what everyone else has said. I think anytime that you're offering a service where someone's storing financial information in their system, 100% should have MFA by default. Just I don't store my credit card information, my debit card information online anymore. If I need to use it, I'll guess check out real quick. But
I'll tell you what I start doing real quick is I start transferring money from my credit card to Cash App. So my Cash App is kind of like my intermediary. Then every year I just get a new Cash App ID. And I just
There's
don't
also services out there for the virtual cards too.
Yeah. So I just use Cash App for that. And then every year I just get a new ID. And I don't put a lot of money on it. So somebody got it. It's not like I'm going to have, like my credit card, I got like $10,000 limit, right? They can run it where my Cash App, I might have $200-$300 on there at the most at any one time. So
let's just hope Cash App's not the next one, after Ticketmaster.
But like we talked about, as we say with the legal team, my indemnification and my cap of money would be small though, right? So $200-$300 cap of knowledge on that. But y'all brought up a good point, and I did a video on this, and I had a recruiter. I'm gonna bring him on. He was looking for a threat modeler. He said most people don't have those skills. I've done it a little bit. I haven't done it a lot. I was gonna do a video. I think Microsoft is called Stride. I did that for a small vendor. But most people, because men's talking about a tax service, that's where you really dig in when you do a threat model and start going through those tax service, talking about your attack point, right? I usually do assessments, which is not quite I don't go through a full threat model of that. I just don't see people doing a lot of that because once again, I think it's the maturity level of your company why you're not doing that. What's your thoughts on that, man?
I think there's a big lack of understanding the architecture of something that's coming up. I've done some threat modeling as well. I've discussed that with you as well. It's we just we just don't understand. We have a really big gap in understanding um, proper infrastructure and architecture of something that we are introducing to the business. It's a big gap. I don't know who's gonna solve it. I am currently studying for it. I'm brushing up those skills, but it's hard. It's really hard because systems are getting complicated, and you never know which point is going to be vulnerable. But in saying that, I also believe that if we understand whatever architecture it's public facing, if we worked on
Mm-hmm.
that first, that would help the businesses out. Yeah.
And that's huge because when I talk about risk, the first thing I said, if you're if you got outward facing servers, your risk just went up at least twofold, if not fivefold, right? Because the whole internet can start trying to attack you, right? So definitely understand that. Shout out to my man Blackjack. Yeah, he enjoying the stream with the multiple guests. I want to thank the multiple guests for coming up and joining me today while they're up here. What's your thoughts on that, Double R? Do you ever talk about threat monitoring? That's kind of super. Yeah, that's definitely an advanced term. What's your thoughts on that, Double R?
Considering I don't work in cyber or security or IT at all, no.
Yeah. You
You know,
getting there? You got to say, you got to project it. Not yet, not yet. But
yeah.
go ahead, not yet.
I do have to say that having a company actually do some type of threat modeling or even being able to implement scenarios, just threat scenarios, is a unicorn
Mm-hmm.
for most cyber and security, areas of most companies.
Yeah.
It's getting a little more popular, I would say, to actually have like tabletop or something where you can look at your full attack surface and just theorize what could happen and how we could stop it. But I think we still just have a lack of understanding that security takes continuous learning. It takes money, time, and effort to maintain. And when we're turning over, oh man, SnowFlake's the latest trend. Well, maybe next week it's going to be, now we're just going to go straight to Salesforce. We're going to go over here to this other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Until people can, like we did in the 90s, you had who? Microsoft. That's what you had for your enterprise software. Like it was Microsoft or it was really nothing.
No.
To have all of these choices causes a lot of disruption in being able to secure your security. Mostly,
Real quick, I'm gonna chime on that though.
yeah,
But if you're a business, they like that because that's innovation, right? So
absolutely.
innovation is going. So
Get
innovation
that
is always going to
buzzword.
get there before security. Go ahead, Double R. But yeah, they love innovation. But like R was one of the big things. R didn't get security till 10 years till they got popular. So a lot of times you see this innovation. Then once they start making money, then they go, oh, let's secure it. Go ahead on that, Double R. I'll let you continue on that.
But yeah, no, it does boil down to innovation, trying something new. But innovation at the base of it, like the root cause of innovation is cutting costs. Microsoft got too expensive. We need to try, oh, look at this little company. Yeah, let's try this. Oh, they offer a great product.
Yeah.
And, they didn't go to this other company because it was more secure. They went to this other company because it was cheaper. That's their innovation. How can we save money while doing the same thing?
Hey, open source made a whole living on that. Linus Torvalds took Sun Unix out. So now facts. Shout out to him though. He did a great job with the security on the Red Hat. But
I
yeah.
love open source. It gives people the ability to be creative and to make new products. But in large enterprise, situations, it's not always the best choice in security because it is open source. You can go and look at whatever GitHub repository, see how they run it, and even if someone does a customized version of it like Red Hat Linux, you can probably still reverse engineer any type of changes that they would have put in it because you understand the basic structure of that open source technology.
But for me though, that made it more secure because then all the top security people could see the code. So they were coming up with tests, they were giving fixes, they were actually looking at it. Well, a lot of times,
100%.
you know, if it's
I agree.
closed, like we can't see it, you know, how it's going. A lot of times open source, then they were like, oh, we can see it. So a lot of the top security guys, they became enamored with it too. So yeah.
And it is great for coming up with new things, but when you think about it, it's open source. Those your threat actors can do the same thing.
Oh, 100%.
And they don't have stipulations behind them. You know, they can, oh man, this looks cool. You know, they're more interested in the actual technology and learning the ins and outs of that technology more so than some security engineer at Ticketmaster. You know, he's there to get a paycheck, to do his job, to support his family. A threat actor is, oh, let's poke around. That passion, I think, is what makes a big difference in learning a technology.
Yeah, they're taking the angle from an actual attacker standpoint. And that's also how you still have different software like WordPress and Apache and so forth that still have CVEs coming out.
Oh my God.
You know?
Especially WordPress. WordPress is just, but two is, I'm going to shout out, it's innovative. There's a lot of features you can buy. I'm trying to think what they call them that you can purchase and add to it. But when you add some feature that a guy created in the garage with 3 dudes, how secure is it, right? But it's the biggest. So once again, it's innovative. But with the innovation, a lot of times it's
security comes second.
Security nightmare. We were running it one time. I'm like, dude, we got to stop. We ran it internally, so it wasn't as bad, and we could probably put it on a separate VLAN, and so there's a lot of stuff you can do to lock it down. But it's like, dude, that's just crazy. Real quick, let me read through this page of the CIS, some basic checks. Ensure a single sign-on configured for your accounts. Auto means basically you can just put it in Nexus, Lexus, or Rapid7. It will scan for it and tell you if it's on all right. I've never heard of this. SnowFlake CSM integration to configure automation to provision and deprovision users and groups. Ensure SnowFlake password is unset for SSO users, which I thought was weird. This is the one we talked about, though. Ensure multi-factor is turned on for all human users with password-based authentication. Right? If they just did the basic CIS scan, they would know that it wasn't turned on. The other thing is 14-character passwords. Ensure that service accounts use key pairs. So if you got automatic jobs running, right, they logging on with keys that you can control. AWS has a whole key infrastructure. This is the one. Rotate your keys every 180 days in case somebody steal them, kind of like they stole the passwords. To ensure who did not log on in 90 days, they automatically disable your password. Like some of these passwords was out there for 2 years. So if they were out there this long, right, they would have been disabled. Then they had, if you're in a session for 15 minutes and you're an admin account, it's going to cut your session off so you won't get man in the middle of somebody's session hijacking your stuff. So those for a couple of more. Let me read a few more of these. Limit the numbers of users with account admins. Ensure all users granted with the admin role have an email address. Ensure no users with the admin account has a default role. Ensure the admin users are granted to any custom role. Ensure Snowflake tasks are not owned by the admin, right? Ensure the task does not run as the admin or security admin. Ensure Snowflake store procedures are admin. Ensure Snowflake store procedures does not run as account admin or security admin. And once again, I'm not going to read these, but we talked about that monitoring and alerting. It shows you how to set those features up, right? If you're working, let me sloop that over a little. Networking, we talked about that. And ensure account level network policies has been configured to only allow users from trusted IP addresses. Ensure user level network policy has been configured for a service account. We talked about controlling our network traffic. Then data protection, right? Data retention time in days, you get 90 days. Retention of time set to 7 or higher. So once again, they had a good 50 checks here for basic checks that if you would have just hooked that into your Nexus scanner, your Rapid7, you would have had some basic security things set up. So once again, is Ticketmaster negligent because they didn't run any of that? What's your thoughts on that, Chris? That's my new favorite word, negligent. I've been hanging out with legal too long. Meaning we could sue them for it. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, anybody could sue them for anything they want. That doesn't mean you're going to win.
I think we can win. We have features we didn't set up, but go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, and so, I mean, yeah, I mean, these are the basic, security practices for it that they, we don't know for sure, but I mean, considering they didn't have MFA set up, I mean, I would be concerned at what else is wrong. But something else I was going to mention in regards to that, though, is I'm kind of curious if they were thinking that maybe they had a level of defense in depth because they had it going through AWS.
Yeah, but I don't think they were controlling their network traffic. But once again, I'm guessing. I don't have any of that. The reason I say that is, I'd be hard pressed to think if they did their brute force attack, they went through their AWS infrastructure. Right. I think they're doing it remotely and just hitting their stuff remotely, right? Like we talked about from, let me go to that particular slide. I just see here, I just think before they just going on prem and they can go directly to the internal stage and hit it. Right. I don't think they forced them through on the after. I don't think they forced them through their Azure cloud version of their VNet. I'm just because when you hacking, right, you're probably at home or somewhere else in the United States jumping on another box. So I don't think they were controlling their traffic. Once again, I'm just guessing on that.
Yeah, but I mean, it wouldn't be too far-fetched considering the MFA issue that we do know about. And that's one of the downsides is that we'll never know what the actual infrastructure looked like on the inside, but we could definitely assume about it. But yeah, I mean, it's surprising. But the point of like also mentioning the AWS as well is, if they didn't have it properly applied to SnowFlake, then they probably don't have it on their AWS either.
I'm gonna throw them a little bonus. I think AWS is a little older, so I think it's a little more understood. And AWS gives you a ton of things you can run to kind of help you with that configuration. Where I think SnowFlake seems to be so innovative. I don't think a lot of people, I've never even heard of SnowFlake, and I've heard a lot of stuff. So shout out to R. She said she was getting that marketer in her inbox. Maybe I got it, just didn't know it. So I just think there's a little more knowledge on AWS compared to SnowFlake. But once again, I'm just guessing on that.
Yeah, no, I find it fascinating though. But yeah, something else that I also did want to note about this too is I noticed that this is from 2013, version 1 for the CIS SnowFlake benchmark.
You want to share it?
Oh no! The benchmark that you were just going.
Oh, okay.
For
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, it's from October of 23. So, and that is version 1.
Yeah.
So it's not that old per se, but I know that they have moved pretty fast. But they just recently came out with it really back in October. So
yeah, that's a good point. But the cool thing is, shout out to CIS. That was their version 1. It's relatively new, so obviously they're looking at it. They're trying to figure out how to secure it, probably because it was so popular. And there was those other companies that came up. Those were big companies. Anheuser-Busch was using it. So obviously the big companies are using it. So CIS thought it was relevant enough to do some benchmarks to make sure it was locked down. So let me read Aiken's thing. If you're paying for identity theft recovery company, should they have a cybersecurity policy included in today's market? Any company you have with identity recovery. When you said, I'm just thinking of the incident response big companies. Yeah, they're gonna have a ton of security policies because two is for them to come on site, especially for the government, they got to be at the same security level as the government. So if they come in a FedRAMP shop, we expect their laptops to be at a FedRAMP. If they're doing IRS work with the schisms, we expect their laptops. So they have a variety. I need to get my homie on here, Gabe. He used to work for Mandiant. They got different level of OSs, I think, spinning up depending on what type of engagement they're going to, right? Because if you go on a FedRAMP, you can't hook that up if your laptop's not at the FedRAMP level. IRS Pub 1075, Sieges is FBI. So there's a lot of different OSs. So I'm assuming, especially from an incident response company, they probably at the highest level, which is STIG. So their laptop is covered on the majority of those type of engagements.
But yeah, this is a really good example on the benchmarks in particular. So
yeah, I was, once again, shout out to man. He had a go, which is all good. I'm super glad he could join me. We talk pretty regular. He shout out on his game, so we get together and chit chat. He's always in the study hall. So if you do, come check us out in the GRC study hall. Ran by my man right there, Chris Whitlock. I'm too old, so I let him do all the good stuff, and I just pop in while I'm eating a little dinner and join in. Shout out to Double R. She adding great value, learning. Definitely gonna be a cybersecurity savant when she get in the game. I hooked her up with one of my homies, so hopefully they'll link up and she'll get some of that service knowledge. Hopefully you can drop a few gems on you. So, but no, that's it. That's it. I think I'm gonna wrap up. You got anything, Chris? Hell, I'm like, oh my god, it's 10:30. We've been going for 2 hours. It's a great 2 hours. Shout out to my man that said he really enjoyed the guest. So I think we definitely gonna do this some more.
Yeah, so basically what we're looking at is the misconfiguration, set up MFA, the actual pathway itself, for the controlling your network, your access, your firewall.
Yeah.
So I mean those were the primary sections. I don't think I'm missing anything else there.
No, that's
You
it.
definitely want to be doing your assessments properly.
Yeah. They seem like they were missing a lot of basic stuff, I guess, which I guess is not shocking anymore. But they were missing the
I
basic.
definitely have to say, from doing Azure training with Microsoft, there isn't anything implemented in like mandatory for any of their customers, but they do have consultants that work closely with their customers to implement a minimum level of security. And a lot of the things in the CIS benchmark are things that are echoed by their security consultants at Azure as like minimum standard. Y'all have to have this. I do think Ticketmaster is 100% negligible in this situation for just not even thinking about the basics of the basics in security.
Which is kind of disappointing.
Yeah, I would second that. When you're responsible for, keeping 500 million people's data, at least somewhat private, there's definitely a higher level of responsibility there. They should have had the basics set up.
For sure. And I think the all-in-one platform that SnowFlake markets is a little bit part of the issue, because at the higher level, your all of your C-suite are looking, oh, this is a one thing platform, everything's packaged, good to go. There might be a bit of a failing, especially in communication, because communicating upward to those higher echelons can be difficult. And who knows who their CISO is, and what if their CISO is, C-suite looking for profits, or actually wanting to secure their infrastructure and working for their security team and not for themselves. But I think that all-in-one packaging makes it kind of feel like, oh, this should be turnkey, like everything's ready to go. And there might have been a bit of a failing in training when onboarding that particular program.
Yeah, but too, we just talk about what the innovation versus security, right? That's always a tough, thing to handle. But like you said, I think all those were, like you said, excellent points. And so, Well, I want to thank everybody for. I just made you a moderator, Chris. Let me see. I don't see double R.
Finally.
I know I'm late. I just kind of finally went to my back end on YouTube, man. I'm trying to do LinkedIn and YouTube. I be over here struggle streaming. So, but yeah. Once again, I will thank everybody for joining us. I'm gonna hang out a little bit, see if anybody has any more questions. Once again, I think this was an excellent stream. So I have to at least try to very put in felt comfortable back. So, but yeah, so this was an excellent stream. So I probably at least try to get this panel on probably at least once a month. Do some kind of big like Ticketmaster. Go ahead, Chris. You want to chime in on that? You like to chime in?
Yeah. So in regards to your message there, awesome name. Very disappointed that this is a place I felt comfortable purchasing tickets. If you actually look into it, several places actually mention on how Ticketmaster, Live Nation is actually in court right now for being a monopoly, is what they've been.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing
I
too.
mean,
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead, Chris.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. So don't feel bad about it whatsoever, because I mean, millions and millions of people trusted this location.
And two, we brought this up. Hit it real quick though. I was kind of appalled, which is kind of good and bad. Is if you go into YouTube, Ticketmaster talks about their architecture down to a lot of different parts, and that's probably 20 videos where they're like breaking down their architecture. I think it's cool from a learning perspective, but from a cybersecurity perspective, you kind of like airing your dirty laundry out there and giving people, ways to attack you. So I don't think I wouldn't recommend doing that. What's your thoughts on that, Chris? That'd be the last one. So.
No, yeah, I definitely agree. So I mean, that's why we need more PBO courses out.
Oh my God. PBO trying to pass the CISP. He old, man. He almost 60. What's your thoughts on that, Double R? Once again, I just thought they spread too much information about the architecture. So I think that made it probably a little easier to hack and a little easier to attack. But
yeah, I think it's giving a broad overview maybe of generic architecture is okay, but in no way, shape, or form should you have 30 videos walking through your infrastructure, especially for a huge company like that with handling, personal data, financial information, just unimaginable for me.
Yeah, and it looks pretty bad after the breach, and then you go back to watch those videos from 3 years ago, and them literally detailing exactly the pathway the credit card numbers are traveling.
Yeah, it's great. They telling they were using Lambda. They told you what they were using. AppSec. They were using some novel stuff. Like, man, I need to learn some of that. But once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining us. I want to definitely give a shout out to the panel. Once again, come join us in Chris's GRC study hall. Once again, he runs that. Definitely place to be. What's the hours there, Chris? 8 what? I mean, Wednesday what?
7:30 Eastern every Wednesday.
Okay, yeah. So we're in there for a couple hours. Once again, we just pivot from there to over here because we were doing a special PBO segment. It was definitely a collaboration. So once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining us. Oh, people about to go to bed. I hope everybody have a great week. And cybersecurity. And two is you can reach out to anybody. Me, Chris, Double R. We'll be in once again into Chris put it out there. The study GRC. You can reach out to any of us. We'll definitely help. Especially me, ProfessorBlackOps at gmail.com. I used to be a professor. You got to give me 48 hours to get to your email. That's all I got. Once again, I want to appreciate everybody for joining me. I'm out. I see everybody tomorrow into the Discord. Shout out to Space Tacos. I think she went to bed, but give her a shout out on a replay. Once again, I'm out. Everybody have a nice day. And I check you out in these cybersecurity streets. I'm out. Everybody.